I was sitting in my Indianapolis apartment when the past I thought I had buried showed up at my door again. 15 years ago, my father looked me in the eye and said, "Investing in your little brother is more important." My mother added, "You're old enough to handle it yourself." I was 19, dying from a congenital heart condition, and they refused to pay for the surgery. I stayed silent back then. Fast forward to last Tuesday night, 10 o'clock sharp. The doorbell rang. I opened it, and there they were, my parents holding a glossy folder and the same entitled smiles. They had seen my Employee of the Year post on the company page the week before. Suddenly, I wasn't the sick kid they abandoned. I was the jackpot. They stepped inside without asking and dropped the bomb. "We need $60,000, my father said. "Your brother's engagement party at that downtown Chicago hotel is already booked. We put down the deposit and the final payment is due next month. You're doing well now, Tamara. This is what family does." I stared at them. Something inside me finally clicked into place. "Get out," I said. They thought I was bluffing. I wasn't. If this kind of family betrayal hits close to home, drop your own story in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications because the full payback is coming and you won't want to miss how it ends. Seeing them standing there dragged everything from 15 years ago back into painfully sharp focus. I grew up in a small brick house on the edge of Fort Wayne, Indiana. The attached garage had once been my father Dennis's auto repair shop, the place that paid the mortgage and kept the lights on until the economy turned. Customers stopped coming. Suppliers raised prices. Within 24 months, the business was dead, and with it went almost everything we had. By the time I turned 18, Dennis and my mother Janet were down to their final safety net, roughly $200,000, tucked in a high-yield account they called the Kids' Future Fund. That fund, I learned quickly, belonged almost entirely to one kid. My younger brother Cody was born when I was 6, and from that moment the house revolved around him. Birthday parties were bigger photos on the wall multiplied, and every casual good job from Dennis carried extra weight when it was aimed at Cody. I wasn't starved for food or shelter, but praise and attention were finite resources, and I rarely ranked high enough to get any. Then, 3 weeks after my 19th birthday, the chest pain began. At first, I blamed late-night studying for community college. It got worse fast. Shortness of breath on stairs, a constant pressure behind my ribs. One afternoon, I blacked out at the grocery store. The ER ran tests and delivered the news: a congenital heart defect that had been silently worsening since birth. The cardiologist used words like severe aortic stenosis and immediate surgical correction. Without open heart surgery within the next 4 to 6 weeks, the risk of sudden cardiac arrest skyrocketed. The price tag, $180,000 after the hospital's charity adjustment. Our family insurance policy, bought years earlier when money was tighter, had a cruel pre-existing condition exclusion. Because the defect technically existed before the policy started, every penny was on us. Dennis asked the doctor only one question: if we wait, what happens? The answer was blunt: 6 more weeks and her ejection fraction will likely drop below 30%. After that, survival is measured in days, not months. That evening, Dennis called a family meeting at the kitchen table. Cody was at a travel ball tournament in Ohio. It was just the 3 of us. Dennis spread out 2 folders. One was the surgical estimate. The other was a thick packet of scholarship projections, private coaching contracts, and projected college costs for Cody, already being scouted by Division I programs at 13. He didn't raise his voice. He simply did the math out loud. $200,000 could save my life, or it could lock in Cody's future elite coaching tournament fees, a college education at whatever school offered the best ride. Cody's potential return was measurable, almost guaranteed. Mine was not. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Investing in your little brother is more important right now. His future is practically certain. You've always been the strong one, Tamara. You'll find a way." Janet stared into her coffee and added almost as an afterthought, "You're an adult now. You need to handle this yourself." I felt the room tilt. The clock on the wall kept ticking. I opened my mouth, closed it, and finally managed a nod. That nod nearly became my death sentence. The pain escalated quickly. Some nights it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. I started sleeping upright in an old recliner because lying flat made me gasp for air. Dennis and Janet never asked how I was feeling. They were busy driving Cody to practices 4 hours away, wiring entry fees that sometimes topped $8,000 a weekend, booking hotel blocks for entire teams. I quit community college. Friends stopped texting when I kept canceling plans. My skin turned gray. My lips took on a faint blue tint. I lost 20 pounds I couldn't afford to lose. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. By the time an emergency surgical slot opened 5.5 weeks later, my heart function had crashed to 27%. The cardiologist told me afterward that another 7 to 10 days and I would have died in my sleep. Dennis and Janet never visited the hospital. Not for the intake appointment, not for the surgery, not for the week I spent in cardiac ICU with tubes coming out of everywhere. They were in Cincinnati watching Cody pitch in a national showcase. I survived because of Harold and Gloria, while my parents never set foot in the hospital once. The day the emergency surgical slot was confirmed, my grandfather Harold and grandmother Gloria left their little lake cottage in southern Michigan before sunrise and drove straight through. They arrived at the hospital with a single overnight bag, 2 thermoses of coffee, and the quiet determination of people who had already made up their minds. Harold walked into pre-op, took one look at me hooked to monitors and oxygen, and squeezed my hand so hard the IV needle shifted. "We're taking care of this, sweetheart." End of discussion. Gloria was already on the phone in the hallway, speaking to their credit union manager in the calm, no-nonsense voice she once used on misbehaving third graders. By noon, their paid-off house, the one with the white porch swing and the garden she refused to downsize, was officially collateral for a second mortgage. They signed the papers in the hospital parking garage because Gloria didn't want me to see her cry. The surgery lasted 9.5 hours. When I came to in cardiac ICU, chest cracked open and stapled shut, Harold was dozing upright in the corner chair, and Gloria was halfway through knitting a navy blue scarf she swore would match my eyes when I was finally allowed outside again. They stayed the entire 8-day stay, trading shifts only to shower in the family lounge. Dennis and Janet sent one Hallmark card. It arrived on day 6. No signature, just a pre-printed "Get well soon." Recovery was its own special hell. 6 months of cardiac rehab, beta blockers that made me dizzy, and a daily pill regimen that cost more than rent. I moved back into my childhood bedroom for exactly 6 weeks, just long enough to realize nothing had changed. Cody's new trophies lined the hallway. My old bed had become storage. I enrolled in community college part-time and found the first job that would take someone with a fresh 18-inch Scar Night bartender at a campus dive called the Rusty Nail. Tips were cash and generous if you smiled through the fatigue. I worked 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., drove for Uber from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., then sat in lecture halls trying not to fall asleep on my keyboard. By sophomore year, I added private coding tutoring on weekday afternoons. 80-hour weeks became standard. I showered in the gym, ate protein bars for dinner, and slept in my beat-up Civic when parking was cheaper than rent. Harold and Gloria helped when they could, slipping $200 or $300 into envelopes marked gas money or groceries, never mentioning the mortgage payment that had doubled their monthly bills. Every thank you card I sent came back with the same 3 words on the bottom: keep moving forward. I graduated with an associate's in computer science, 0 debt to the school, and a resume that looked like I'd been working in tech for a decade. A logistics company in Indianapolis offered me an entry-level data analyst role at $62,000 a year, full benefits, actual health insurance that covered follow-up echoes and stress tests. I packed everything I owned into my car and drove the city 2 hours south without telling anyone in Fort Wayne. Studio apartments turned into one-bedrooms. Salaries climbed 85, 110, 150, 185, and last year 218,000, the day I accepted the senior data engineer title at a Fortune 500 downtown. Bonuses and stock awards followed. Last April, I closed on a 12th floor 2-bedroom condo overlooking the White River. The down payment cleaned out most of my savings, but the deed has only my name on it. I kept my life quiet. No big new home posts, no flashy vacations splashed across Instagram. The only time I let the mask slip was when I accepted the Glass Employee of the Year plaque at the company gala. Someone filmed the 30-second speech, corporate posted it to LinkedIn, and within days, the first message in 8 years from Janet popped up. Saw your award. Honey, so proud. We should catch up soon. Fort Wayne gossip never sleeps. Church prayer chains, neighborhood Facebook groups. Aunt Marlene's Christmas letters, everyone knew I had done well for myself. They knew I bought property. They knew I was 34, single, no kids. In their eyes, that translated to one thing: money burning a hole in my pocket, with no one else to spend it on. I ignored every outreach. Silence had worked for years. Clearly, I underestimated how patient greed can be. 15 years of peace ended on an ordinary Saturday afternoon. I was drinking coffee and scrolling through emails when the intercom buzzed twice, sharp and impatient. The lobby camera showed Janet and Dennis standing side by side, clutching identical leather folders and wearing the tight, hopeful smiles people wear when they're about to ask for a loan they never intend to repay. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I pressed the button and let them up. They walked in like they belonged there. Janet immediately ran her hand across the kitchen island, nodding approvingly at the marble. Dennis drifted to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out over the White River as if he were calculating square footage. Neither said hello. Janet was the first to speak. She opened her portfolio and slid a thick, glossy brochure across the coffee table. The Peninsula Chicago gold-embossed heavy paper, the kind of thing that costs more to print than most people spend on groceries in a month. Cody and Brielle's engagement party, she announced, voice bright with forced excitement. 500 guests, rooftop terrace, string quartet, 5-course seated dinner, signature cocktails, the works. Dennis flipped to the back page and tapped a red-circled number. We signed the contract 6 months ago. Non-refundable deposit $28,000. Final balance due in 35 days, $88,000 total. After some credits, they're giving us the exact amount still owed is $60,000. He placed a single invoice on top of the brochure like he was serving legal papers. $60,000 due in full, no payment plan, no extensions. Janet launched the pitch. She had obviously practiced the entire 2-hour drive from Fort Wayne. Brielle's family moves in very influential circles. Her father owns half the commercial real estate in Northwest Indiana. This party isn't just a party to Mara. It's the introduction of Cody to people who can change his life. If we back out now, we lose the deposit and the humiliation will follow him forever. Dennis leaned forward, elbows on knees. Reasonable dad voice. Activated. You're doing extremely well. Everyone knows it. One wire transfer and the problem disappears. We'll pay you back naturally once the gifts start rolling in. Consider it an early wedding present to your brother. I let them finish. The entire performance lasted maybe 8 minutes. Then I laughed. A short, sharp sound that cut the room in half. Janet's smile faltered. What's so funny? You flew 2 hours, I said, carrying a 5-star brochure to ask the daughter you left to die, to fund the party celebrating the son you chose instead. Dennis tried to interrupt. I raised a hand. No. You don't get to rewrite history in my living room. 15 years ago, you sat at that kitchen table in Fort Wayne and decided baseball scholarships were a better investment than my heartbeat. You picked tournament hotels over hospital visits. And now you pick a rooftop in Chicago over basic decency. Janet's eyes filled instantly. She had always been good at on-demand tears. We're still your parents. Blood is blood. Blood, I repeated. Blood would have shown up when I had a tube down my throat and staples holding my chest together. Blood wouldn't wait until it needed 60 grand to remember my phone number. Dennis went for guilt next. If you don't help, they lose $28,000 they can't get back. Cody will be the laughingstock of every important contact he's made in the last 5 years. I walked to the door and opened it wide. Then, let him be the laughingstock. He'll live. I did. Janet's tears vanished as quickly as they appeared. You're willing to destroy your brother's future over money. My brother's future was never my responsibility. You made that very clear a long time ago. Dennis stood slowly, face darkening. You've turned cold. No, I said. I turned free. They hovered in the doorway for another few seconds, clutching their precious brochures, waiting for me to crack. When I didn't, Janet stormed out, first heels clicking angrily down the hallway. Dennis followed, pausing only to deliver one last line. You'll regret this. The door shut. The lock clicked. Silence rushed back in. I stood there for a long time, pulse pounding in my ears, and realized something important. I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. For the first time since I was 19 years old, I felt completely, unmistakably free. 3 days later, the coordinated attack officially began. It kicked off at 7:12 a.m. with a call from an unknown Fort Wayne area code. I answered because I was still half asleep and thought it might be a work emergency. Janet's voice poured through the speaker, already in full crying mode. Tamara, how could you be so cruel to your own brother? She sobbed so hard she had to pause to catch her breath. Between gasps, she told me Cody hadn't eaten since Saturday, that Brielle's mother was now reconsidering the entire engagement, that the Peninsula had sent a certified letter threatening legal action if the final payment wasn't received. She begged me to find it in my heart to save the family from total humiliation. I said nothing and ended the call. Number blocked. At 9:04 a.m., my personal inbox chimed. Subject line: a letter from your father. Please read before you delete. Dennis had typed 3 full single-spaced pages. He opened with, "We are deeply hurt by your actions," and quickly moved to long paragraphs about family loyalty, the sacrifices they had made, raising 2 children, and how my refusal was tearing a hole in the fabric of this family that may never mend. He included screenshots of the hotel contract, highlighted the non-refundable clause, and closed with wiring instructions and the exact figure, $60,000. The final line read, "I am still your father, Dad." I dragged the email to trash and marked the address as spam. At 10:27 a.m., a text message popped up from a number I hadn't seen since I was 21, my Aunt Marlene. "You are a wicked, heartless girl. The Lord commands us to honor our parents. You will answer for this one day." I blocked her instantly. By noon, the assault went public. I had never bothered to leave the old Fort Wayne Community Church Facebook group. I simply never posted. That changed when a new prayer request appeared titled "Urgent, Harper Family in Crisis." The post, written by the associate pastor's wife, spoke in careful code about a family member choosing financial pride over love, and asked for prayers that hearts would soften before irreversible damage is done. Within 90 minutes, someone tagged my name directly. The comments poured in fast. "Tamara, this isn't the sweet girl we knew in youth group. Money is temporary. Family is eternal. Please reconsider. Praying the prodigal comes home." I left the group, blocked the original poster, and muted notifications. The phone kept ringing. Janet from a different number. Dennis from his office line, 2 cousins I hadn't spoken to in over a decade. Every voicemail carried the same message: I was destroying my parents. I was ruining Cody's future. I was going against God. By 6 p.m., I had blocked 31 numbers and 6 email addresses. At 8:43 p.m., An email landed from the church administrative assistant titled Special Prayer Focus Tonight. Attached was a PDF of the same prayer request now, with my full name bolded and underlined. The message urged the entire congregation of nearly 800 members to reach out in Christian love and help bring the wayward daughter back to family unity. For the next 2 hours, my phone never stopped. Old Sunday school teachers, former neighbors, the lady who used to babysit me when I was 10. Everyone had been handed the script. Some quoted scripture, some cried, some outright called me selfish. I sat on the couch and methodically cleaned house. Facebook unfriend, unfollow, leave every Fort Wayne-related group. Instagram block, restrict, archive. LinkedIn privacy settings lock down every old connection from Indiana removed. I paid my carrier a fee to port my old number to a burner that would ring into nothingness and activated the new one immediately. When the last block clicked into place, the silence hit like cold water after a fire. I waited for the familiar guilt to rise up and choke me. It never came. Instead, a wave of pure relief crashed over me so hard my hands started shaking. My shoulders, which I hadn't realized were locked up near my ears, dropped. My jaw unclenched. I took what felt like the first full breath I'd had in weeks. For the first time since I was 19 years old, no one from that old life could touch me. No middle-of-the-night guilt trips, no weaponized Bible verses, no more tears dialed up on command. I walked to the kitchen, poured a large glass of red wine, and stepped out onto the balcony. The city lights shimmered on the river below. I stood there a long time, feeling the weight I had carried for 15 years slide off my back and disappear into the night. It wasn't just relief. It was absolute, unshakable freedom. The doorbell rang at exactly 11 o'clock on Friday night. I was already in an old t-shirt and sweatpants, halfway through a movie and a second glass of wine. The intercom camera showed two figures under the harsh lobby lights, my brother Cody in his dealership blazer, and a blonde woman I recognized instantly from his tagged photos, his fiancée Brielle. They had driven 2 full hours from Fort Wayne. I stared at the screen for 10 long seconds, then pressed the entry button. I wanted to see how far they were willing to take this. They stepped out of the elevator like they were walking onto a stage. Cody's eyes were swollen and red, his tie-loosened hair uncombed. Brielle was already holding her phone in selfie mode, red record light glowing. Before I could say a word, Cody dropped straight to his knees on my hardwood floor. "Tamara, please," he choked out. "I'm begging you. Mom and Dad said you're the only one who can save this. If the party gets canceled, Brielle's family will end everything. I'll lose her. I'll lose my whole future. Please." Actual tears streamed down his face. His hands were clasped like he was praying. Brielle angled the phone to catch both of us in frame, lips curled in a satisfied smirk. "You should feel special," she said, voice syrupy and venomous. 52,000 followers are watching live right now. By morning, the entire state will know the kind of sister who lets her little brother kneel and beg. Your name, your job. This building, everything goes in the caption. One tap and I post it everywhere. I looked at the glowing red dot, then at Cody, still on his knees. "Get up," I told him. He shook his head, tears dripping onto my floor. "Not until you say yes." Brielle zoomed in on his face. "Keep crying, babe. They love this." I walked to the intercom panel and pressed the call button for security. "Front desk unit 1204. I have 2 trespassers who won't leave. Send someone now." Brielle's smirk vanished. "You're bluffing." The night guard. Marcus, a 6'4" ex-Marine who doesn't play, was at my door in under a minute. He took in the scene, Cody on his knees, Brielle filming me standing with my arms crossed. "Ma'am, are these people invited?" "No, remove them." Marcus stepped forward. "Sir, ma'am, you're leaving the building immediately." Cody staggered to his feet. "Tamara, wait." Brielle went full influencer meltdown. "Do you know who my father is? This is assault. I'm live streaming everything." Marcus didn't flinch. Livestream walking to the elevator. She kept recording the entire march down the hallway, narrating dramatically about security abuse and heartless millionaires. Cody stumbled after her, still pleading my name, until the elevator doors shut. I closed my door and thought that was the end of the nightmare. It was only the beginning of the public one. Brielle posted the raw, unedited footage within minutes. Caption: when your fiancé has to get on his knees and beg his own sister to save their engagement party, and she still says no. This is the real Tamara Harper of Indianapolis. Full exposé coming. By Saturday noon, the clip had 800,000 views. Someone recognized the building's distinctive lobby marble. Someone else connected it to my company's Employee of the Year post that had started this entire mess months earlier. By Sunday night, it crossed 2 million views across TikTok, Instagram Reels, and local Facebook groups. Comments were vicious. What kind of monster watches her brother cry on the floor? Hope her money keeps her warm at night. Someone doxed this woman. My new phone stayed silent. I had already changed the number. But my work email began filling with anonymous messages. My LinkedIn inbox overflowed with concerned Christians. A popular Indianapolis gossip page posted a photo of my building with the headline, "Local Tech Exec Refuses to Help Dying Engagement Makes Brother Kneel." The video went perfectly viral in the exact circles that could hurt Cody the most: Fort Wayne social media luxury car buyers, Brielle's Midwest influencer network. Cody's tear-streaked face on his knees became the thumbnail everyone shared. I never replied publicly. I didn't need to. Marcus texted me. Monday, half the staff saw the video. We all think the blonde's insane. You good, Ms. Harper? I thanked him and turned off my phone. The internet rage lasted exactly 4 days before the algorithm moved on. But in the real world, the damage was instant and irreversible. A plain white envelope appeared under my condo door the following Monday. No stamp, no return address, just my first name written in Dennis's careful block letters. Inside was a single sheet of notebook paper and a printed photo of the old house. The note read, "Your mother hasn't slept in a week. Come home one last time so we can talk face to face like a family. You owe us this much. Saturday, 10 a.m. We'll be waiting." I recognized the manipulation immediately, but something in me decided this ended in person, or it never ended at all. I packed the complete medical file, drove north on Saturday morning, and parked in front of the house at 9:58 a.m. Dennis opened the door the second my foot hit the porch. Janet hovered behind him, eyes puffy, clutching a tissue. Cody wasn't there. Dennis tried a weak smile. "You came." I walked straight past them and placed a thick manila folder on the exact same coffee table where they once planned Cody's tournament schedules. "Sit," I said. "This is the final conversation we will ever have." Janet started crying before her body touched the couch. Dennis sat slowly, like he already knew what was coming. I opened the folder and slid the first document across the cardiologist's letter from 15 years ago, stamped, "Urgent." "Read the prognosis out loud," I told Dennis. His hands trembled as he read, "Without immediate surgical intervention, mortality risk exceeds 70% within 6 weeks. Next page, the hospital estimate $180,000 circled in red." Janet sobbed. We didn't know what to do. I cut her off and placed the surgeon's declined slot email. Dennis had sent the one I'd obtained through a formal records request years later. Then the discharge summary, heart function 27% note that any further delay would have been fatal. Then the itemized bill with Harold and Gloria's names on every payment line. Janet reached for me. I stepped back. "You told me I was an adult and had to handle it myself," I said, voice steady. "So I did. I lived because 2 retirees mortgaged their home while you paid for private coaches and out-of-state hotels." Dennis tried. "We thought you were stronger. You thought wrong." I laid down the bank statement from the week of my diagnosis balance, $204,000. Same week, a $12,000 withdrawal labeled Cody Travel Ball Deposit, Cincinnati. Silence swallowed the room. I looked at them both. You chose. You chose in emails, in withdrawals, in hospital absences, in unsigned cards. You chose again when you showed up at my door with a Peninsula brochure asking the daughter you let nearly die to finance the son you saved. Janet whispered through tears, "We're still your parents." "No," I answered. "Parents don't gamble with their child's life." Dennis finally asked, voice hoarse, "What do you want? Nothing. I'm here so you never get to rewrite history again." I closed the folder. From this second forward, I have no parents, no brother, no family in Fort Wayne. If any of you ever try to contact me again for any reason, every page in this folder goes public church groups, dealership clients, Brielle's followers, local news, everywhere. The unedited truth. Janet collapsed forward, wailing into the cushions. Dennis just stared at the closed folder like it was radioactive. I walked to the front door, paused on the threshold, and spoke without turning around. "Goodbye." I stepped off the porch, got in my car, and drove south. Halfway to Indianapolis, I pulled over at a rest stop, took out my phone, and activated the brand new number I'd already prepared. The old one went silent forever. I merged back onto the highway and never once looked in the rearview mirror. Only 1 month later, a message from an old neighbor popped up on my new phone. Mrs. Larson, the sweet widow who used to watch me ride my bike, had somehow found my updated number through a mutual work connection. Her text was short. "Tamara, I thought you should know what's happening here." She attached screenshots. The clip of Cody on his knees had kept spreading. A local news station in Fort Wayne picked it up as a family drama gone viral. Someone anonymous later traced to a church member who had seen my medical folder after I left it on the coffee table that final day, uploaded scanned pages of my hospital records with the names unredacted. The caption read, "This is why the sister said no." Within 48 hours, the entire story flipped. The engagement party was canceled the same week. The Peninsula enforced the full penalty clause, $28,000 non-refundable, plus an additional $35,000 in contractual damages. Dennis and Janet couldn't pay. The bank started foreclosure proceedings on the house before the end of the month. By the third week of November, a sheriff's sale sign appeared in the front yard. The brick ranch sold at auction for $72,000 under market value. Cody lost his job the day a major client walked into the Mercedes showroom, recognized him from the thumbnail, and asked the manager if the dealership employed the guy who begged on his knees while his parents let his sister die. Corporate decided bad press wasn't worth keeping a salesman who scared off six-figure buyers. He was gone by Friday. Brielle ended the engagement the following Monday. Her breakup post was clinical, a black square and the words, "Some families are toxic. Protecting my peace." She unfollowed everyone mutual and wiped Cody from her grid entirely. The church turned fastest of all. Once the medical records circulated in the same prayer chain emails that had condemned me weeks earlier, the tone changed overnight. The pastor called an emergency meeting. Dennis and Janet were asked to step down from the greeting team, then from the building committee, then from membership altogether. Former friends crossed the street to avoid them at the grocery store. Mrs. Larson's last message came 2 days after the house sold. They moved into a one-bedroom apartment on the south side. Cody's living in his old friend's basement. No one's heard from them in weeks. "I just thought you deserved to know it's finally over." I read it once, saved the screenshots, and deleted the thread. Life in Indianapolis kept moving forward. My cardiologist gave me a perfect checkup. I signed up for a half-marathon charity run. Work promoted me again. On weekends, I cooked for one read on the balcony and slept without the old weight on my chest. No unknown numbers ever rang. No envelopes appeared under my door. No more prayer requests. No more tears. No more demands disguised as family love. They had chosen their golden child, and the consequences finally caught up. I had chosen myself 15 years ago, and I never looked back. Sometimes justice is loud and dramatic. Sometimes it's just quiet, relentless, and absolute. I closed the messaging app, poured a glass of wine, and watched the sun set over the river. For the first time in my entire life, the silence felt like home.